I actually modified my presentation a little because it was called Bridging the Innovation Gap. But I don't think, I think we all agree that innovation is a challenge inside the operator. Happens fairly slowly just due to their size and access to the developers, the web developers that are really building the cool products out there. So it's really an ecosystem challenge of bridging the innovation into the operator, giving the operator access to that innovation. So it's bridging the ecosystem gap is what I changed it to, and it's really shifting the perception of the subscriber from the operator being a utility to being a rich user experience, and that's really the key, is the user experience. So any idea what the largest social platform is today? Anybody? My mouth? That's actually true, but the largest physical social platform is the actual telco network. Okay, it's a network, but I said platform simply because network would have given it away if I said social network. But really, to the user, to the subscriber, it is a platform. It's a social platform. If I go to Facebook, Facebook gives me everything I need. Google Hangouts gives me everything I need. It's a platform. So as of the end of 2013, there was 6.8 billion mobile subscribers. Mobile. There's 7.1 billion people on the planet. So definitely a lot of potential for access for the innovation out there. And the most valuable subscriber identifier, I actually had a conversation with Dean yesterday, which I'm going to correct this to say communications identifier. But the most valuable communications identifier is the telephone number. Why? It's it's a multi-dimensional identifier for one, because it's an address, it's an identity, it's a login, it receives messaging, it makes voice calls, it does many different things for the user. And I know that if I make a phone call from AT&T in the United States to Far East Tone in in Taiwan, it's actually going to go through, most likely. So why the phone number is relevant and is beginning to be recognized as relevant by web developers even is Twitter digits. Is anybody familiar with digits? I'm sure the Nexmo guys are, but they released it on October 22nd, and what they're doing is providing free authorization against the phone number, SMS auth, to any web developer that wants to use the platform. So what does that mean? Well, it's free for one, but Twitter is also pitching with that anybody who's using that, actually the users that are using Twitter because they're of digits, they'll now farm the contacts off of the device, and you can find all your friends via telephone number now. So the web world is recognizing that the telephone number is extremely valuable as the single most important identity and identifier. So what they're also doing is, by letting all these third-party apps use them as auth for the telephone number, they're actually building this massive database of telephone numbers. They know what apps are using what telephone numbers, what users live on what apps, and they're farming the contacts off your device. I'll talk about that more in a second and why that could be a real threat. So the device ecosystems, the strategy is working with these guys has been to zero rate the popular apps, zero rate the data for the popular apps, and also become a billing engine for the device ecosystems. If that's not what you really want to be relegated to, because if you look at what Google's done, and they take their different messaging apps and their communications app suite, and they've consolidated it down into Hangouts, so I can get video, voice, messaging, collaboration, pretty much anything I want to do right there in Google Hangouts. And if you have an Android device, especially a Nexus 5 that's the stock Android, it forces it on you. So anytime I make a phone call, Google Voice is enabled by default. So they provide telephone numbers. So I can use my Google Voice number to do all my stuff and actually make calls on the web. And Sprint's actually in the US is powering a lot of Google Voice. So your Sprint mobile number works natively with Google Voice. So that's one option, is to go native with the device ecosystem, but they make it really easy to pull that phone number out and keep it. Apple So iMessage was a big deal, FaceTime, but now Apple Continuity with the latest OS X and iOS releases, anytime somebody calls or sends a message to my iOS device, it shows up on my Mac. And what's even worse and scarier to the operator is the Apple SIM. So if I'm on Sprint in the US and I have a T-Mobile prepaid plan and I want to switch over to T-Mobile because I get cheaper international calls, I can do that on the fly. So Apple SIM, and they're also positioning themselves because these guys are becoming carriers to offer the telephone number right on top of that. So really all they care about is you, the operators, delivering their packets. So what is the next killer app? We get this asked to us all the time when we're talking to operators and any kind of a voice provider. Is they want to be the next WhatsApp, they want to be the next Wechat, they want to get in front of that viral app that's going to go wild. But the thing is there isn't a killer app. So Steve Jobs said people don't know what they want until they see it, and I'll add until they see their friends using it. So they can see something, but unless a group of people that they know, like, trust are using that and recommending they use it, they're not going to use it. So really what the killer app to me is user experience. And it's about shifting the subscriber's view, like I said earlier, from the operator being the utility to being a rich user experience. One thing I didn't mention on the previous slide with Apple is, in the United States, I don't know how it is globally, but you drive around everywhere and you see people with these little Apple window stickers on the back of their car. And it's ridiculous that people are so in love with a brand and an experience that they put that on the window. So really, let's get the operators to be that. Let them love your operator. Don't walk into the Vodafone store and buy a phone and just leave and then delete all the bloatware and put on the stuff you like to use, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to, and that is the experience right now. So it's not as much about attracting the developers to your API exposure strategies. That is key. I'm not disregarding that at all, but it's more about remaining relevant and becoming relevant again to your subscribers. So offering Me Too competitive products is not really the answer, simply because, like I said before, you're being very reactive, and in that aspect, excuse me, but in that aspect, you're following, and people don't like copycats unless all their friends are using it. So something could come out that's significantly better, but generally it's not happening from within the operators, and we all know that. So the subscribers, they want choice and flexibility, and that's the great thing. Well, what was originally the great thing about Google with Google Voice and their different messaging communications apps is because I got to choose which ones I wanted to use and what my experience looked like. But now it's all in Hangouts, so they're forcing me into that Hangouts user experience, trying to bring everything into one. Apple's the same way. I got rid of the iPhone just because I couldn't stand the closed ecosystem, and that's really what it's all about. Is you're forcing me, you're telling me what I'm going to get. Now, and even if it's fantastic and the user experience is great, for me that's not good enough. Now, for a lot of people it is, but give people the power of choice and flexibility on top of providing them a complete solution. So how do we know people want choice and flexibility? We did a survey in the UK on how important it would be, or how useful it would be if you could take your telephone number and extend that to all the third-party apps and services you love with your text messaging and voice functionality. And 50% of the survey, which was a random selection, actually found it useful, and we're willing to pay up to 50%, we're willing to pay up to £10 extra a month on their monthly bill to have that capability. So the ecosystem challenge, I think this slide reiterates a lot of what's been discussed here, this past couple of days. But the key thing is, given the large scale of the over-the-top providers out there, of the larger ones like Apple and Google, they're quickly displacing you faster than you think. And was it Wechat? I was reading an article yesterday on Wall Street Journal that WeChat just released its voice calling app, and okay, a lot of people are doing that, Skype, et cetera, but 450 million users WeChat has. Okay, so that's the size of some of the largest global operators in the world. Okay, so back up, sorry. So operators really need to leverage their assets, the core functionality that they do really well, and extend that to the innovative plays that are out there. So let me make my number more productive. So this is what we talk about when we did a survey in the UK about extending the telephone number to the apps and services that they already use and love. And it's about making it productive, making your number actionable, turning it into a productivity suite. So you present actions. If any of you are familiar with IFTTT or Zapier, IFTTT has recipes so that it's a web app automation suite, so I can actually mash apps up with other apps and make it do different things. It's kind of cool. But the idea is remove that from all the disparate identities and the device, and the user having to be the one who decides how that web connects, and make it around the telephone number so that now my telephone number is kind of that platform, really. So we're turning the operator into a web app automation suite, if you will. So text my number from anywhere. You would select that action, or that capability would be available on the number. But rather than you as the operator, writing your own cloud texting service, the subscriber actually gets to choose which cloud texting service they want to use. Copy of my text to the cloud. This is one that I use all the time. It's my favorite. And I actually used to use IFTTT for this, but it takes your text messages and pushes them into Google Drive. So all my texts are copied into Google Drive. So the key to this is it's not done from the device, it's done from the network. So when I get a text in, it goes directly to my Google Drive and logs into my spreadsheet. Have all my photos going into Dropbox. And then choose my own voicemail service. There's tons of really cool voicemail services out there, Umail being one of them. They have a lot of funny voice greetings that callers get when they call. Our CEO, I'm sorry? Somebody? Yeah, so my CEO actually, whenever I call him, he uses Umail, and it's a gynecological clinic greeting that I get, so it's kind of funny. But present a voice menu to my callers. So if you're a small business and you use your mobile number as your business number, then you want it to do more than just receive the call. And you may use a voice IVR service out there that's hosted on a platform that sells them a telephone number. So you have to present that telephone number to your subscribers, or do a call forwarding mechanism to forward that to the new number whenever you want to use it. So the idea is now I can actually enable the action so that anytime somebody calls my mobile number, it actually hits a voice menu of my choice. And another one is share my location with family. So we're actually talking to a lot of the app-based location, device location guys, and they're very interested in getting location data from the network to increase the efficiency of batteries on the devices by triggering polling intervals based on network location. So it's pretty interesting as well. And Donde Está is one of the partners that's in our platform, and they have a family share my location with my family feature. And one thing you can do is, as a parent, I can enable this action on my primary number, and then I can share that action with all my kids. I only have 3. But I can share that action with all my kids, and now they can share their location with me via that app or service without even having that app installed on their device. So it's about choice. It's about giving the subscribers the ability to extend their telephone number to the apps and services they already love. So I'll play a quick video of what, it's like I said, it's all about user experience. Let's see if we can hear this.
Imagine if your phone number did more.
You can't, sorry. Oh, let's turn it all the way up. If the video doesn't work, that's fine.
Imagine if your phone number did more. What if you could choose how, when, and where it worked? Using the Shango Actions app, a subscriber can enable the action they want, creating new ways to communicate using third-party services that can now work with your phone number. The choice is yours how you share, store, and direct your communication. Best part? It works across any device with any operator. We built an entire backend that allows service partners to craft and publish an action with ease. An action is what makes your number smart. Operators can now browse through a selection of published services and choose the ones they want to offer their subscribers. After a few clicks, your chosen service is now available to your subscribers. Beginning to end, Shango makes it possible to change the way you communicate.
So the idea is the Actions, Shango Actions is a mobile app that we actually developed to be an example interface of what an operator could actually productize actions to their subscribers as. And we actually pilot with this, so the operators that are in pilot with us right now are using this app. We've had a lot of good feedback on how to bundle, because not everybody wants a full suite of selection thing. It's more maybe a power user play, but the ability to say, with your number, so £5 extra a month, you get cloud texting and you back your text up to the cloud storage that you like. And the great thing about this is, you heard in the video, across any device, these types of services, obviously not this app, but the actions themselves, since they are invoked via the network, via triggers, all of a sudden the feature phone world opens up, which in India, what is it, 11% is the smartphone penetration. So 89% of the rest of the users have feature phones that now can have enhanced capabilities into the web world that they couldn't otherwise have. So the market focus is obviously the operators having the subscribers, and the service partners, whereas the operators are really the channel to the subscribers for the service partners. So the real value on the operator side has become this single trusted interface into the web app world, including enhanced communication services. And then on the service partner side, it's growing exponentially. We've actually only opened it up to service partners to come in and onboard themselves since September. And we went from 5 of the original service partners that were part of the platform of different types of capabilities to 120 this month. So it's proliferating. So you're quickly seeing that the service partners, they want the access to the subscribers, and they would rather than direct market, they would rather go through the operator as the channel, they would rather work with the operator. So the value prop is simplified integration, and I'll show this in a minute, and then rich service creation. So rich service creation is the ability to mash up the web apps. So really, service creation traditionally has been bundling features together of a given platform to create a service, whereas we're actually bundling features of different services available, or different external services, to make a new type of service, an actionable service. So the key value to the service partners is onboard once you're available globally. So the ecosystem itself is a distributed SaaS platform. We run that in AWS all over. And then the actual operator integration side, the operator side, can be deployed in what we call a policy routing engine that sits, if you have an IMS core, it'll sit next to that, next to the TAS. We can talk architecture after this if you want. But the idea is onboard once, access to many on both sides. So it's a trusted, secure interface onboarded into the operator via the platform plays that have been shared this week, as well as the existing APIs that are exposed. So Shango out in the real world, actually what I'd like to do real quick, do I have time, Ellen?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Is I'll bring up an example. So, oh, there it is. So I opened up the tabs because the Wi-Fi is not very trustworthy in here. So this is what you saw at ZipWhip is the cloud texting service. They're one of our partners out of the US. And so what they do is they come in, they define their service, ZipWhip Cloud Texting, what that is, catalog, teaser, logos, much like an app store. And we'll do screenshots. And then they'll define plans. So there's the service, and they define a plan and call it cloud texting, and this is the free plan. So you'll see when you define new plans, it'll show up there so you can actually define list pricing that's displayed to operators. Rather than the operators having to go look for websites and look up and do research, it's all right here for them. On the service partners they can bring in. They define their features, they create actions. So an action is, like in the video it said, it's what makes your number smart. So we define it based on triggers. So since they're a cloud texting service, they'll choose the SMS trigger, and all they'll do is put in their REST endpoints for where they're going to, where sending text and receiving text are going to be sent to. And then we provide them the data model of what we expect to receive from them and what they will receive from us, and any authentication keys or usernames, passwords, and types of auth that is necessary. I gotta find my mouse. So we make it real easy for them. ZipWhip, this service was actually defined, and the endpoints defined and tested, and they actually adapted their API very quickly to our data model, and it was all up in about 30 minutes. And with that, you know, on our side, so what ZipWhip does is they do cloud texting for SMS enabling of landlines for landline numbers, obviously. But they also have a mobile app that installs a little device client that pulls all the messaging off of the API. So the thing about what is cool for them is that they don't care where the messaging comes from. So if the message comes from a device on our side or it comes from the network on our side, it looks the same to them, so they can focus on the user experience of their core product and not so much of the technology behind it. And then, here's a list. So this is, they see a list of operators that have actually requested their service and that their service is actually working with. So, you know, they come in, and if there's a new operator here, it'll come up and show needs approval, and you'll actually look at terms and conditions. If you need to contact them, you can invoke a manual process, you can automate it, whatever, you approve it, and that gets published to the operator catalog. So with that, I'm going to jump over to what the operator sees. So in the video, you kind of saw a little bit briefly of the interface, and the resolution's horrible on this screen, by the way. But the operator can actually go in and choose. So I wanted to look at talk route here. They're a mobile IVR. If the Wi-Fi works, it doesn't. So what that looks like is I actually can select a service. I can read about it. I want to add it to my catalog. It shows up in my services once the vendor approves it. So ZipWhip again. So here's all the ZipWhip teaser and what their plans look like, and you know the policy APIs based on the triggers. Here's a Google, so same thing, save my text to Google Drive. And then what they now can do is, I know that they're, you know, from an opco perspective, we've had operators talk about creating catalogs for specific opcos. They can go create subcatalogs and different tiers of service. Where also, like in the UK, you could create different catalogs for different tariffs or different types of users. So one thing I want to throw out there is this plays very nicely into enterprises as well for pre-integrated services around communications, whereas in Salesforce.com, one of the major Big Three in the US is very interested in our Salesforce work, because now they can take it to their enterprise and give it to an IT admin, and he can put in their API, their Salesforce API credentials, and share that action with whoever he needs to share it to in his organization. Now, every time any of those people receive a text message, it shows up in Salesforce under the contact as activity. So those types of integrations are very fast, and you know, typically would take a professional services organization to do that against you know, the enterprise's technology. So let me jump back here. So Shango, in the real world, I don't know if that has to do with the fact that that's Microsoft or the fact that this is a Mac or both. I don't know.
It's Microsoft, isn't it?
Okay, I will go with that. Don't send. I wonder if you actually hit send, if that'll go away and it'll never show up again.
It'll ask what app you need to send it on, and you waste 5 minutes stopping.
Oh, yeah, for sure. All right, let me get rid of this stuff. Sorry. And it did reopen, thank goodness. Recovered file. I'm gonna find my spot. Okay. So in the real world, we're currently piloting in 12 countries, leveraging the mobile app. And we're at the group level of operators as well as the opco levels. And using the Shango Actions app, what we do is for product teams, actually on Mac's panel yesterday, there was a lot of discussion on implementation and then standardization. And it's really what we like to do is empower the product teams to test new innovation without having to do any implementations and having to involve the technology teams at all, because they need to go out there and see what's available. And if they find something that that they like and it works well, and they believe they can really productize that type of action or bundle of actions to their subscriber base, then they can actually involve the technology team at that time. So what we do is we provide a no integration option where we leverage the Android device APIs for the messaging and call events and location and pull it in. And we actually eat our own dog food and use our operator integration API from our app so that a transition can be seamless and really non-existent to the service partners on the other side. They have no idea that the APIs on the other side changed. So we do offer that same standardized API format outbound to our service partners. We offer that to the operator side as well to integrate into all the various subsystems. Now when we require, what we aren't is a telephony API. When we require actual call routing integration and things like that, we leverage people like Telestacks and OpenCloud to actually be the telco stack, and we'll run on top of that, providing our routing policy API to invoke our triggers. Enterprise pilot scenario, that Salesforce one was an example, but also they're looking at it as using the number into productivity suites, automating the number events into productivity suites, and we're scheduled with a major MNO as well as MVNO and several VoIP providers in the US right now. So our target is not just MNOs, works with everything, but we see the biggest pain and the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity for change in the MNO world and where something needs to happen now. So the key points, and this is my last slide, then I think it's lunch, right? So the key points, the number is still relevant. And it got less relevant. People tried to replace it, but it's becoming relevant again. And then actually, with things like Twitter digits to where it's actually becoming an ID, to where one thing they're pitching also, I need to bring this up, is it's not just two-factor authentication. Twitter's actually pitching to web app developers that use their platform is you don't have to worry about username and password anymore. Don't ask me how they do that. But it just shows and proves that a lot of research has been done on the relevancy of the TN. And the operators cannot be reactive in development. So don't go copy Wechat, don't go copy WhatsApp. Have access to that type of innovation so that you can bring it into your product teams extremely quickly, test it out, find if it works, and then be able to offer it to your subscribers. So you can maybe catch it right as it's starting to go viral. So the service partner ecosystem should be farmed from multiple platforms. I love that everybody and all the platform plays are developing ecosystems of developers because that's how you grow your platform. And you probably will foster the next WhatsApp or the next big thing. The problem is your platform is not in all operators. So the thing about it is if your platform, if Rescom is running that new viral app, and somebody in Singapore that's not using Rescom wants access to that, through our platform, we can actually integrate over the top and bring it into that operator to use whatever technology stack they are. Now, to improve quality of service, it's also now a distribution channel for Rescom because they can say, hey, this really cool service is running on our platform. You need to deploy it in your environment. So the key is the numbers are relevant. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So what I suggest is if you have any questions, chat to Evin during the coffee break. So we're going to go into coffee break now. What I suggest is we come back for the work streams at 11:35, so that gives us time to have a coffee, have a chat. So how the work streams are going to get split up. The innovation in legacy consumer services led by Dean, it's going to be here. Then the work stream 5, which is processes for successful service commercialization, which is led by me, will be up in Babylon 2. And then the work stream 6, reviewing how TADHack can create a service innovation pipeline, led by Mark, will be in Petra, which is just at the other end of this floor.